Welcome back, Justin, and welcome back to the Brisbane Lions.
Thanks.
Thanks, mate. Thank you.
Any questions, I suppose? It's well, first of all, actually, it's just wrapped to be back at the club. Obviously, spent so much time. 4 years ago, I didn't think I'd be journeying back to Brisbane, but it's fantastic that the opportunities come back. I'm looking forward to getting stuck into it and you know, you're really taking the club to the next level and where it wants to go.
Justin, do you feel like you have big shoes to fill replacing Bossy?
Yeah, I mean, it's the first time I'm in this role, so there's a lot of things that don't come up that, you know, I'm not going to be used to, that are going to be new parts of my role. It's very much easier as assistant coach when your role becomes quite simplistic and one-dimensional, but I understand this is a multi-dimensional role that I have, and it's going to be a difficult role, but I'm up for the challenge. One thing I know is that we are building and going to build a really good organisation. What happens today is not going to matter in 3 years' time. So now I sit here now very comfortable with what's going on. To be perfectly honest, my job is to coach the team, but I still understand within that you need a stable organisation, and the club's very aware of that, and that's going to happen. So very positive, and the future's bright, and the future's very positive for the club that things will sort out and we'll drive to our next premiership.
Technically, he's very good. He's an innovator with the game, understands what a competitive game plan looks like, very good presentation skills, and can articulate what his game plan is. So, you know, again, we've got a very young list, and you know, Justin will be very clear on how he wants our team to play and what brand and style of play we want. So, we're very excited about that.
Just to get a very basic one, Justin, have you been hitting the phones yet for some of these guys who we get to decide their future?
We'll do that today, no doubt. It's as I said before, it's critically important we get started on that. I'd love to keep everyone of the players. Let's be honest. They're draft picks over the last few seasons, and we need to get them on board, and they're a very important part of the future. As I said, I'll do my very best to retain and present to them in a way that shows a very bright and clear future and a pathway for them. So I'm looking forward to starting and making those calls.
With Jonathan, Justin, is the ball purely in his court? If he wants to go on, he gets that opportunity?
As I said, we haven't discussed that. Like everything and every decision going forward, it's in the best interest for the club, not just Jonathan, but it's very important with Jonathan and obviously particularly Simon, it's done in the right way as well. If it happens this year, happens next year, I don't know that right now. We haven't sat in list management meetings and I haven't spoken to those guys in depth about those topics, but one thing that will happen is if it is to be, it will be done in the right way, in a respectful way, and it'll be a joint decision between Brand and the club.
What's your assessment of the list? What's your assessment of the list as a whole after watching that from afar?
Yeah, well, just on age analysis, I mean, you can break down lists in many ways if you like, but age analysis, we've got a few holes, and then once again, that's why it's important to keep our younger players. Let's say the drafting age is 4 to 5 years old, if you take Daniel Rich's draft, for example. So it's critical the continuity of age keeps coming through our list. So that's critical. We've got a few older guys that are going to retire in the next few years. So that's where the holes start to appear. So there's a few challenges there in that part. But talent-wise, I think there's some, particularly in the midfield, there's some really strong talent throughout midfield, which I'm really looking forward to working with. So there's a few keys we need to develop, which is, I guess, is my trade. So I'm looking forward to getting involved there and helping those boys along as well. So, as I said, it's going to take a couple of years just to get that so little iron out those creases with the list. But as a game planning wise, that's the majority of my role as well.
Justin, you talked about the brand on the field. You've been away a couple of years, but are you conscious of how competitive the marketplace is with the Gold Coast and with the NRL and with A-League or whatever else is up there? And do you think the fact that you're an ex-premiership player is going to help you get out there? And are you looking forward to all that off-field, you know, drum rattling that you have to do apart from on-field stuff?
It's funny, I actually worked for Dean when I was 20 years of age when he was at AFL Queensland. So I'm used to, I was the 17, 18-year-old boy up there, moved interstate, you know, had a job on the side, I did all that. I understand the Queensland marketplace. Don't realise how easy we've got it in Melbourne sometimes. You know, my time at Richmond, you don't really have to worry about building the game. But I understand it's a very big component up there in Queensland.
How important then is your history with the club in terms of How did that make you stand out, you think, from the other candidates?
Oh, you'll have to ask Dean that, but
Clearly, I can answer that. I mean, ultimately, we're looking for the coach that we thought could take our group forward. And Justin was that coach. I mean, that is an added bonus, I think, but certainly Justin's been selected as a senior coach based on his coaching abilities, not necessarily the other elements that he can bring due to that experience he's had in the past. But yeah, it's a bonus, but certainly not why he got the job.
How soon, Justin, can the club have success? How patient with the fans
we want to win games of football straight away. One thing that you won't get from these bold statements, I'm not into that. So I'm not going to sit here and say we'll win a flag in a certain time frame. But we will be competitive, and I'll have a level of expectation to meet. I want our players to really enjoy their time and have a great working environment, but also we have to be competitive and know when it's time to work. So that's what our team will be, basically. Hard-working, competitive team. As I said, I don't think Ken Hinkley would have sat here last year and said we're going to play in the second week of finals. Sometimes you get an immediate response. Sometimes it takes a bit longer. And I don't think even the senior coach can tell you sometimes whether it's 1 year, 2 years or 3.
Justin, the clubs promised their fans a premiership by 2016, so you're not prepared to set a deadline, but you've sort of landed on inside of one. So does it add to the pressure? Can you achieve that?
Premierships, grand finals, top 4. I mean, what is getting to 2 grand finals enough? Is 2 final series? Winning premierships takes a lot of little things to add up to get to. Often a little bit of luck too with injuries and fitness at the right time of year. So promising premierships is difficult. Promising competitiveness and consistent, finals campaigns can be easy to do. But as I said, I'm not here to make the bold statements.
What will your football department look like? Are you confident that there'll be enough resources that you've been set up to succeed? Because perhaps Michael Voss didn't always get the support he needed. And assistant coaches, have you sort of thought about the team you want to bring in with you?
Yeah, I have. Very confident the resourcing will get done. Also, can't really just talk about history, but I'm very confident going forward that the club's going in the right position with resourcing and all the important things to make a football club competitive.
What have you learned from Damien Hardwick in your time at Richmond?
A little bit of patience. Richmond were a pretty ordinary place 4 years ago. A very good spot now. Most importantly, I think I've got a really good handle on the modern game through Damien. Very, very smart coach. He's an accountant by trade, so very analytical guy. I'm very right-brained, so we didn't really understand each other originally. But in the end, he taught me a lot of the things that I didn't have, which is critically important.
Justin, when you get the chance to stand up in front of the playing group and finally address them, what is your sort of main message that you're going to try to instill, I guess, in the playing group?
I think first and foremost that I expect competitiveness on all occasions. That's a given. And the second part of that is I want the journey to be fun. If you don't actually have fun along the journey, you actually won't perform. You'll never actually enjoy turning up to training. You'll never actually give your best. So my goal really is to create an enjoyable working environment that creates and expects hard work. And if I can get that from my players, I know on Saturdays they're going to give everything they've got. And I know throughout the week they're going to come to work motivated to listen and learn. And then from there, obviously, the detail takes over. But if I don't get those two things, it's very hard to teach the detail if you don't have motivated players.
Justin, do you know what your coaching panel might look like in 2014?
No, not names. As I said, we've spoken about structure and possible additions and number of additions to the coaching panel. But names, there's some that are obviously currently there within contract, some that are out of contract. But once again, it's a bit early to be sort of talking names at this particular point.
Justin, with Dustin Martin, would it be a purely footballing decision, or is there some other areas of his life and everything he needs to address before you have?
Every player's a package. Every player. See what's going on with Collingwood now with Heath Shaw. I mean, every player is a package, and I think players have to realise that now. And I think even more and more with the media involved and the potential off-field investment clubs can put in you are a package of a player. So, as I said, we won't won't touch on Dustin's particular issue, but I think every player needs to know that you have basically positives and negatives, or ticks and crosses, and you have a lot of ticks and limited crosses, or they'll start evening up and you might find your way out the door.
What about game plan under you, Justin? What's the sort of fundamentals that you sort of want your team to like by defensive game? Is it attacking sort of?
Oh, look, I'm going to be a three-phase coach. I mean, obviously we watch Fremantle play and we're all inspired by their defensive ability, and every coach wants that. But I'm not going to ignore their offensive abilities, because often the way you attack gives you the best chance to defend. So, you know, I'll definitely coach the three phases of the game very, very implicitly and very hard. And at certain times it might be our defensive side that's letting us down, so that will be the focus of a point. But all three phases will be dissected pretty hard.
Do you think that's the way the game's going next year after seeing the success of Fremantle, especially in the last few weeks? Everyone's just going to be playing this manic style of forensic defence all over the field.
No, well, you've got the best offensive team against the best defensive team in the grand final. So I think if the players buy in, you'll get the best result, whether it's defence or offence, or a mixture of both. And I think that's a critical part, is that the roles and parameters that we set are met and the players buy in. And that's what I hope to achieve, is that I get a clear direction for our players to follow.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.